Okay, hello everyone. For folks here and online in person, welcome to join us today for the AIAA Los Angeles section, very special event. And hey Maryland. Yeah, so AIAA, as you know, is a nonprofit organization, the leading aerospace nonprofit professional society, and we are the local chapter of it. So because in the summer, a lot of activities. So next week, we are going to have AIAA Ascend Aviation coming out in Las Vegas. So this month is a little bit crowded, but today we have a very inspirational speaker talking about very exciting project that combine the great element of the pilot and also aircraft building. So it's ultra exciting. I know folks online already cannot wait for local people just gradually arrive. That's the timing we can get here. But before we get started, we have some logistic. So for folks here, the restroom, you can ask the bartender and turn right into the restroom. Then if you we have water and donut cookies here, welcome. But if you want something more exotic, you have to ask the bar, order yourself. Otherwise, cannot be involved with any transaction of alcoholic drink or food. So that's you have to get it from them. So second issue is that folks, this event is going to be recorded thanks to the speaker, Jessica. It's going to be recorded, and just attendee asked if it can be transcribed. We'll do the best. So we heard that there's a pilot that who was cannot hear, so he want to with some disability. So we'll definitely do the best to transcribe. Okay, so without further ado, I will shortly introduce very quickly. They can introduce them so much better than me. You can see the bio of Jessica online. Also, her husband, Patrick, Mr. Chamberlain, is also here. So Jessica, as you can see online the bio. She's amazing lady. She have been fighting, in her career, and she managed to do many things impossible in her life. People thought impossible. She become the pilot and is doing amazing thing. The road trip, giving talks around many countries in the world, and have more than 40,000 audience. That's amazing, and she kept going on the journey. She's going to encourage you and inspire you, and you'll learn more from it. So let's welcome Miss Jessica Cox and her husband, Mr. Patrick Chamberlain. Thank you.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Microphone.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
When I was growing up, my mom used to say that I wouldn't be able to do all the things I needed to do. But I just learned to do things with my feet that other kids did with their hands. I learned to drink from a glass, color with crayons, unwrap birthday presents just like everybody else. I started taking Taekwondo when I was 10. 4 years later, I was the first person without arms to get a black belt in the American Taekwondo Association.
Some people are afraid of the water or saying they can't do something, but it's not about that. It's just going out there and saying, how can I accomplish it, as opposed to, can I accomplish it?
Our next guest is living proof that you can accomplish anything. Please welcome Jessica Cox. And it's one thing to do karate and play piano, but you decide, I'm going to learn how to fly. What made you do that?
On the elementary playground, I remember on the swings envisioning myself being Superwoman, and I could fly over the playground, and I was everyone's hero, and one at a time I would take a person up and share my superpower. And it wasn't until years later that I was able to fulfill that dream of being Superwoman. Everything was a challenge. The basic challenge of learning how to put on my headset, learning how to buckle my seatbelt, and probably the greatest challenge was learning to land the plane safely. But I think the greater the challenge, the greater appreciation you have when you've accomplished it. I always say that I don't think I'd ever want to do anything to prove myself to anyone. If I did anything, it was either to prove it to myself or because of the enjoyment of it, but not to prove to anyone else that I could do it. I live my life saying that, this is me. I'm not a victim of anything, and, I can do whatever I want to do. And my mom told me that I can do whatever I want to do.
Okay.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Oh, good to know.
Yeah, you have to introduce for the online audience who that was.
Okay. So we were chatting just earlier about Chewy. Chewy is down at my feet right now. He is Chewy, named after Chewbacca, because he's the best co-pilot in the galaxy. And he has not gone flying in a small plane just yet, but we feel like he'll be a natural. But the woman here just to my left mentioned that we may be careful about ascending and descending because of their ears and how sensitive dogs are. But we do have what are called mutt muffs, and they help keep the noise down for him. And he wears a headset, essentially just like pilots do. And it's great. So they actually even have some that play music, which I just learned. This is my husband, Patrick Chamberlain. And together we are going to really dive deep into this amazing airplane, the impossible airplane. An airplane. First off, I want to thank you, Ken, for coordinating, organizing this, and for inviting all those here virtually who could not be here in person. Thank you to you as well. I hope that if there's a way, if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us, because you can reach out through theimpossibleairplane.com. And what's another method for them to ask questions?
Yeah, so everything we're going to talk about, you can get some more information about it at theimpossibleairplane.com, or you can email us at right-footed, as in like right-handed, but right-footed foundation@gmail.com.
And I know we do also have a few people that will have great questions for me here in person. So we're going to allocate some time for that as well, because that's very important. And it's a really great opportunity to answer these great questions that I'm sure one particular audience member has already. But before we get started, I want to let you all know quick updates. Why don't you give them a quick summary on how this plane is coming along?
How about who you are and how did you learn how to fly?
Hey, I knew I had him out here around me for a reason. He does this so well. Patrick and I have been doing this together for 13 years in 29 countries. So it's wonderful to be able to do that as a couple. And he knows me well, and I do well with questions. So my name is Jessica Cox. I'm the world's first armless pilot. I have been certified by the Federal Aviation Administration, a sport pilot certificate. And so I am the first certificated pilot to do so with just my feet on the controls in an unmodified aircraft. The aircraft that I fly is called a 1946 415C Air Coupe airplane, and the only airplane in aviation history designed in the 30s, built in the 40s, that can be flown with 2 limbs. It is unique because it doesn't have rudder pedals. So the ailerons and the rudders are interconnected. And just like that, just almost like driving in the sky, you fly this plane with 1 limb on the yoke and 1 limb on the throttle. And that is how I do that, with my right foot on the yoke and my left foot on the throttle. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, I think you got that one. So what inspired you to learn to fly? Like, why would that be something you would go out and seek to do as somebody without arms?
Well, I was actually terrified of flying. I was deathly afraid of it, to be honest. I'd never been in a small airplane. And this opportunity came about right after college. I graduated from the University of Arizona with a degree in psychology, and I was not going to go to grad school. Grad school was out of the question because I was done studying. And so I said, well, what's next? Why not become an entrepreneur? And I love motivational speaking. I found out what you could do and how you could become an entrepreneur as a motivational speaker. And so that appealed to me, and I started out that process. And right about that time, a fighter pilot came up and said, how would you like to fly an airplane? It had never dawned on me. And I later learned that in the 1930s, a woman attempted to fly an airplane with short arms, hands on her shoulders, with a modified aircraft.
And that was right here in Southern California, too.
So she was of Amelia Earhart's era, but never lived to tell the tale. She attempted to fly at the time, the Federal Aviation Administration was called something different, and they did not want to give her a license. So she wanted to fly across the country to prove that she could do it. And on her way to DC, she was crossing Texas and ran out of fuel.
Yeah, there was no investigation system at the time. We just know that she crashed. It made national news, and that's how we know that she was a pilot, was that coverage. But fast forward to 2005.
And I decided that I would like to do this all with my feet. And that meant modifying myself to make an existing airplane work. The question of modifications was not a part of the conversation. It was all about, how am I going to make it work for me? And at that point, that's how I lived life, making myself fit the world however way I could. And there was nothing wrong with that. It was just about, how am I going to convince a flight instructor to believe me? Because that's a scary thought, right? And let me tell you, the aviation world is absolutely incredible. If any of you are interested in flying, they will support you. And I mean, despite what many people may think, people telling me no, I got a lot of yeses. And it took a lot, though. It took 3 airplanes and 3 different instructors, flight training in Florida, California, and then right here, by the way, right here in Torrance, California, was part of my flight training journey. And then back in my own backyard in San Manuel, Arizona, to attempt to do what had never been done before, use my feet to fly a plane. I was really conditioned to use my feet, so it wasn't a question for me about, is this possible? It was just, I needed to figure it out. And that's how I lived my life, figuring it out. And I had a wonderful supportive flight instructor, multiple flight instructors. I'll just name them out because we need to give them their credit. starting with Glenn Davis out of Florida and the East Coast as well. He lives in Maine as well. And then there's Parrish Trayweek out of San Manuel, Arizona, who took me to the end of my training, a former Air Force. And so, how do you train someone to fly a plane with their feet? That is a good question. Do you want to share anything on that?
Well, again, so normally in an airplane, you'd have one hand on the stick or the yoke, the other hand's working the throttles or panel instruments and everything, and then you've got feet on the rudder pedals. And so you're able to do it because that rudder connection and the aileron connection are all interlinked in fascinating engineering. So yeah, you need a drink. Sorry, Jessica's getting over a bit of a cold at the moment. Person sitting behind her on a flight last weekend was having a little trouble. But you gonna be good in a sec, Jess? Okay. So I guess I'll talk about the air coupe for just a little bit more. So built in the 40s, or designed in actually the 30s, meant to keep pilots safe, so you can't cross control, which is where you bank one direction but try and rudder the opposite direction, which for non-pilots is a very dangerous configuration, because if you stall in that configuration, it's going to spin. You need at least 1,000 feet to recover from that kind of spin. Okay, Chewy's worried about Jessica too. Do you need another drink, Jess? Okay. Sorry about that. So when you come into land, you make the final turn to turn a final. A lot of pilots, maybe they overshot the runway or they weren't lined up perfect, so they'd get into that cross control situation, get a little bit slow, and then not have enough altitude to recover. So the CAA, the precursor to the FAA, said, here's a bunch of money, engineers figure this out. And the air coupe was one of the things that came out of that. Because it's interconnected, you can never cross control it. So you can never end up in that situation. In addition, the airfoil on the wings is designed not to stall. So when you get to a stall, 90% of the time, just the nose kind of mushes in a little bit, but you still have control authority, so you can still fly the airplane. How you doing, Jess? Almost there? Okay. So Jess learned how to fly in Southern Arizona. She got her license in 2008. You saw in the video, she got invited on the Ellen Show. She went to AirVenture, the biggest air show in the world in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Flew into that with her flight instructor at the time, Parrish Trayweek. Got her air coupe, or Parrish's air coupe, really, at Show Center. And AIAA has been a wonderful partner. They've had Jessica come speak every year. She says, hey, I'm coming. They say, let's get you on a stage. And this has all been great. And by the way, Jessica and I met in 2010. We got married in 2012, right here in South Pasadena. But 2019 rolled around. Something really exciting happened. A gentleman donated an air coupe to Jessica's nonprofit, which on paper sounds great. I mean, she's finally got her own airplane. She's got a nonprofit that's aviation invested, and she can use aviation to kind of start reaching out to kids and doing all these projects. The problem is, as I mentioned, this is an airplane designed in 1930s, late 1930s. There's no instruments to speak of. The fuel gauge is a little cork bobber bouncing on the hood of the cowling. There's no attitude indicator, so you can't know which way is up in a cloud. You can install vacuum gauges, but it adds more weight. There's only like 400 pounds of useful load. It's a tough airplane to fly long distances. But we just tried to see how we could get it to work in 2020. You know, everything's locked down for COVID. And we start reaching out to other disability groups, and we say, what are you doing for the 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act? And they're like, nothing. We're in lockdown. We're like, well, we got to do something. So we realized we have this airplane. You can fly it with the windows down. They come up and down on the sides. And it's a two-seater. And we happen to know a pilot who was pretty important with the Americans with Disabilities Act, and that was Senator Tom Harkin from Iowa. He was the one who introduced the ADA on the Senate floor and helped get it passed. So we thought, well, what the heck? Let's reach out to him, say, hey, you want to go on a flight with Jessica for the 30th anniversary? It'd be just the two of them in the plane, be outdoors, lots of airflow. It'd be as COVID safe as we could do anything. And he said yes. So suddenly we had to get the air coupe from Arizona and that took a professional ferry. We got all the way there. The weather cooperated well enough. It was enough to be VFR. And just a couple of days before the actual anniversary, enough time to let the press do their thing, Senator Harkin came out and he jumped in the airplane with Jessica. And they didn't do anything grand with where they went, but it was more the fact that Jessica could say thank you to somebody who was so pivotal in the disability community on the 30th anniversary of this landmark piece of legislation in an entirely unique way. To be able to jump in the airplane, go fly around the pattern a little bit. They did a couple of landings and came back in. And it got the word out that it's this special occasion for disability law. It was on the news, CNN, Fox, CBS, ABC, all the major networks, all the aviation outlets as well. And then we tried to get the air coupe home. And it took us 11 days. We were not professional ferry pilots yet. We know air coupes pretty well, but it just weather and other issues and maintenance problems. We had the spinner brake, the brake pedal or the brake reservoir, the brake fluid reservoir somehow miraculously emptied itself while it was parked overnight. It's an 80-year-old airplane, and it is still flying begrudgingly, I think, at this point. So later that year in 2020, we made a little trip to Oregon.
And we talked to Van's Aircraft about the possibilities. We sat around in a little circle, and Mr. Van Grunsman, that's his name first, Dick Van Grunsman, he shows up. This guy's a legend in aviation. This is a guy who started Vans many years ago. And he says, well, let's see what we can do. And we didn't know where that conversation was going to lead. They just, for background, create these kit airplanes. You essentially make these kit airplanes that come to you in a crate. You open up the crate, and just like building anything, you build these out.
So we talked to them and said, we've got this really crazy idea. We want to make an airplane custom for Jessica. And we kind of looked at the legal requirements, and we figured out what's called experimental amateur built aircraft was actually the most lenient category for what we wanted to do. And Vans builds fast maneuverable aircraft, and they happen to have a 4-seater that has like 1,000 pounds of useful load. So we were going from 2 seats, but like enough fuel for 2 people to ride along around the pattern, to 4 seats with enough to do 4 people, 3 hours of fuel, and actually go somewhere with this aircraft. And it does like 200 miles an hour. So we could actually get there in pretty good time, and advanced panels and the whole thing. And Vans basically said, well, which one are you looking at? And we said, the RV-10, that's the one we'd really like if you're willing. And they got on board. They've had a little trouble since, but they've overcome that. Lycoming's on board. They're delivering the engine later this month. Advanced Flight Systems is donating a glass panel customized just for Jessica to be able to use. We've tested the screens and the knobs and the layout so that Jessica can be able to use it. Hartzell is donating a bunch of engine parts. Tempest is donating the rest. Hartzell has also donated like this very nice 3-blade composite prop, so we can really utilize all that horsepower in the engine. And a team of engineers from a variety of backgrounds are coming together to kind of help design some of these modifications. So I'll let you talk for just a moment about that, and then I'll dive back into what those mods are.
So this is a totally different concept for me, modifying something. As I shared with you earlier, I used to just figure it out with my feet. If I have to prop my feet up, I would do that. But now this whole idea of sitting comfortably and making something work to the way I move is incredible. And that's why the modifications are going to allow me to fly for longer periods, a lot more comfortably, and move in this plane that in a way that's natural to myself, meaning having feet on the floor, not up where I was getting like a Charlie horse and sometimes my foot fell asleep and I get cramps. Now I can have both feet on the floor and I can control everything in the way that my legs are intended to move. So it's exciting, but trying to connect these engineers with a person like myself who's lived my whole life through my feet has been a lot of conversations, a lot of like, I know that you think this works great, but I actually prefer this. And you can continue that.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of technology to be able to get like prosthetic hands and arms that move and do a whole bunch of dexterity. But for legs, it's basically walk, run, jump. That's the majority of the research, not in being able to articulate toes or being able to move an ankle. So there's not a lot to draw on here other than Jessica's lived experience. So the modifications as they stand right now is a left pedal that sits kind of square in the middle of the footwell. And so that's her left foot. And if she swings the arm left and right, that's bank. And if she pushes it forward and pulls it back, that's her pitch. And then we're leaving one rudder pedal up front on the right so that that one becomes a push-pull rudder pedal. And that's her yaw, which this system is going to be advanced enough. It's going to have what's called a yaw dampener. So once she gets up in the air, she can take her right foot off that pedal, turn on the yaw dampener, and it will electronically control the rudder in flight to make sure turns are properly coordinated, plus autopilot and a whole bunch of other fancy, nice stuff. So that takes care of that. We have a jack of all trades who's proven the concept of what's called a puffer switch for the throttle. If you're not big into disability, you probably haven't heard of what a puffer switch is. It's basically a tube, an air tube that paraplegics or quadriplegics use to control a wheelchair. So it can detect which way air is moving through the tube and how fast, and it is very sensitive. So we'll have the physical throttle control still there where Jessica's right foot can reach it. If the electronics fail or we need to shut them off or anything goes sideways, the physical control will still be there stock. This is kind of an add-on supplement so that as Jessica comes into land, she's using both feet. She can blow through this puffer switch and advance or pull back on the throttle to control the propeller as she comes into land. And let's see, what else we have? We had a number of students working on a custom door system so that because it's a low wing airplane, Jessica has to stand on the wing to unlatch the door, but then the door opens up out over the wing. So she can't be physically standing there for the door to open. So we've been working on a number of modifications to make that happen so it's easier for Jessica to get in and out and to then bring this giant gull wing door that's, 8 feet in the air back down and closed again. We've also done, we just had a group of engineering multidisciplinary capstone students from the University of Arizona, from the engineering department. So they had electronic, mechanical, aerospace, systems, whole bunch of different majors all working together on a team for a project. And we said, can you make the fuel selector valve to go from left tank to right tank and off in an emergency or when we shut down? Can you make it electronic to do its own thing and modify the handle so that it becomes essentially a footle for Jessica to control with her feet to turn the system on and off or left, right, whatever we need to do. And they actually came up with a really neat design, a bunch of buttons on the panel so Jessica could do it electronically. So it was super simple, but the physical system, again, was still there in case things went sideways. And they could set it to a timer. So every 30 minutes, it switched tanks. So you didn't really have to worry about draining each tank equally. And they actually won the second highest prize, best overall design, out of some 80 different teams last year.
We are so proud of them and their dedication. And ultimately, we wanted to get these students involved in engineering ideas and being a part of the impossible airplane. Whether or not we use the designs, we'll determine that. But the important part is that they're taking part in something that's bigger than one person, one pilot, one plane. And it really continues to travel with them for the rest of their life in engineering. So that universal design and the awareness of disability will always be part of their mindset as they build out things for the rest of their life and impact engineering by having that experience working on this plane and knowing that people do things differently. And even if someone has a similar disability, they can also still do something in a different way. So we are so happy. I mean, one of our students even is working at Boeing now, and that we're so proud of him. He was a part of the first team, remember?
The very first team, we said, okay, engineering students, we don't have any professionals on board. Come up with your best foot controls for the airplane. And they did figure it out. They took the math. They had measurements of how strong Jessica could push and pull and twist and rotate and, twist her ankle or do a abduct or whatever the other direction is called. All these measurements, and then they got the measurements from an RV-10 and created levers and different systems to try and match that same control to the airplane so she could fly the full envelope of the capacity of the airplane. And it was a great creative solution to what we were looking for. They were young, still learning the engineering space, so it needed some refinement and changes, but it was a start. And being able to then take that student project to AirVenture and have people walk up and people started to go, oh, I can see how this could change and then it could work, or that could change and then it could work, and inspiring more ideas down the road. We've now worked with the U of A and Oregon Institute of Technology. Did I get that right? On various student teams to work on preliminary designs for a bunch of stuff. But it's not just about getting Jessica in an airplane and saying, congratulations and go fly. It's about what we can do with the airplane. Jessica is in the unique position that she can get people's attention. She can bring that attention to an important issue. And she can also be a role model for so many kids with disabilities across the country and around the world.
And I guess for me, sometimes I often forget, because this is just how I live my life, is how powerful of a visual it is. And how I'm a visual person myself. So when I see something, it really has an impact on me. And so when this airplane is finished, which Patrick will bring you up to speed on where we are after starting this in 2020, when it's finished, I can envision so many transformative moments for young people and for people with disabilities. But not only that, but for the people who are who have an impact on the lives of people with disabilities, because sometimes there's the label, you can't do it, you have a disability, or you won't be able to do that, or you're not good enough. And all these labels can get washed away when they see the impossible airplane and the fact that a team of people, amazing people, made this possible. Who's to say what someone can accomplish and cannot accomplish?
So we have a simulator we found in RV10 that unfortunately was a little, from what I understand, the fuel was a little mismanaged. There was an issue. Pilot landed, he survived, he walked away, which is also a testament to the safety of the airframe. But we snagged that airframe out of the wrecking yard and we've turned it into a simulator. And the final design modifications are being installed in it as we speak, so that Jessica can get in, fly one-to-one with what the modifications will be in the airplane, and evaluate them, make sure they all work. So we have a trailer, we are ready to take the simulator on the road, let kids and adults and anyone who wants to try jump in, see if they can. We'll set them up on like a 1 mile final and see if they can put it on the runway without smoke billowing out of the simulated airplane on the screen. The wings are 90% finished. We're bolting on the last little bits of the wingtip lights right now and finishing the wiring for that. Then they'll be ready to attach to the fuselage. We've got a little bit of a delay with the actual panel, the carbon fiber piece that holds the instruments in the panel. There's a little bit of a delay with that right now, but as soon as that gets shipped out, we'll get the rest of the front instrument section finished off, and then we can put the carbon fiber top on the fuselage. And then, of course, the phrase in experimental amateur built is 90% finished, 90% to go. I'm not sure if that stays true in other engineering fields, but it'll really look like an airplane at that point. Tail's finished, top will be on the fuselage, wings are ready to go, but then all the wiring and internal tubing and everything. Like I said, engine should be arriving before the end of the month. And by December, this airplane should be ready for test flights. And if everything goes according to plan, we can unveil it to the public at AirVenture next year, last week of July. And then we are working on a project to eventually get Jessica across the US. Of course, meet kids here in the States where it's really easy to take this airplane around. But hopefully by 2028, take this airplane around the world. 20% of people globally will experience a disability at some point in their lifetime. That's over 1 billion people. There are so many stigmas, even here in the US, and in so many places around the world, it is so much harder to live with a disability. And so we want to keep pushing the needle in the one way we know how, through aviation, to keep pushing this needle to get disability normalized, to make it part of everyday conversation, so that we don't have to have regular entrance, disability entrance. It's just an entrance that everybody can use, that universal design concept. But we can't get there alone. And as the aviation director of Right Footed Foundation, I do have to mention, we are so close, but yet so far away. We're still working on fundraising. We have about $30,000 in parts that we still have to purchase to really finish the interior and make it, an airplane you can sit in and strap yourself into and all of that. And then all of the things we want to do with the airplane. The nonprofit can't pay us to fly the airplane, but the nonprofit can pay for hotels. And we can work with PR advocates who can talk to all the news companies and make sure that they are there at various events, so we can help spread the word, or reaching out to Boy Scout, Girl Scouts, Explorer Scout, youth groups and different people, to bring them to the airport to see Jessica, to hear her talk. And I promise I put my phone on Do Not Disturb before we started. To do all of these things, and all of that is, of course, going to cost money. We're looking to raise, starting AirVenture next year, we want to have $220,000 set aside for all of those other expenses. And we are more than happy to change the paint scheme, to put logos on the side of the plane, to pick out particular colors for any companies that want to do that. You know, being at aviation events like this, the people we meet are the connections that can help us get this done. We know not everybody works in marketing, but maybe you know somebody who does. And to at least open the door so we can have a conversation with them is how this mission is going to be finished. So thank you all for coming tonight. I'll give you one, question time. And thank you all for watching online as well. Again, if you want to connect us with somebody you know at a company, your company, another company, startups that you may be connected with, these conversations are invaluable. So you can reach out at theimpossibleairplane.com, or you can email us at rightfootedfoundation@gmail.com. So I think we'll open it up for questions.
We have a mic here that Ken has as well. Is that for questions or? Oh, go ahead, Ken. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I just didn't know if there were any questions. So.
No, I'm also asking people online here.
Oh, okay.
All right, I'll take the first one. It's on?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on. How did you find your first flight instructor? And I mean,
Oh.
what was that conversation like? That I just can't even imagine.
Yeah, it was.
Was it a referral or did you just call flight school
my
blindly?
It was tobacco.
Oh, that was my final instructor.
Yeah.
Okay, so my dad smokes a pipe and he's 84 years old and he has this pipe and he was standing in a parking lot at an air show and a gentleman walks by with another pipe and my dad yells at him, "What pipe tobacco are you smoking?" And this guy ends up being Mark. And we tell Mark that we've been there all weekend trying to find an instructor that knows how to teach me in an air coupe. And he says, "Really? Well, my friend Parrish Treyweek is at the air show right now, and he's not only an instructor, but he has an air coupe that he instructs in. And also, he's the airport manager at San Manuel, Arizona, at that airport. So the next day, I'm in his airplane at 7 a.m., and I'm able to finish all the way through to final. But he was, he saw me when I walked up to him, and I was going to introduce myself. But before I did that, my phone rings and it's in my sling purse on my shoulder. So I reach into my purse with my toes and I grab my phone. I text my friend, I'm going to call you back later. And he sees all this happening and he makes this connection. If I could text message with my toes, then I could handle the controls of an airplane. Yep, he was convinced.
So when he first met you, when he first met you, did he know that you were armless? Armless? Okay.
Yeah, he
Okay, so
did.
that wasn't a shock. Like, okay. So he was beyond that. Wow. Well, how fantastic. And did he see you through or just the beginning part of it? I know you said you had 3 instructors.
He was my final and he took me all the way through. My very first instructor didn't even see me. This was a conversation over the phone. And I began to tell him everything about myself, about being a black belt in Taekwondo and graduating college and doing all these things, stacking up my resume. And then at the very end, oh yeah, and by the way, the reason I want to fly your particular plane is because I don't have any arms. And he's silent for like a couple seconds. And he gets back on the phone and says, "Well, my buddy who suffered from polio successfully flew this plane. So maybe this is the plane for you, but we'll have to see." And he didn't make any promises, but he invited me to come out to train with them.
I love that no one walked away running, screaming. I mean, that everybody was just like, let's figure out how to make this work. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I know Nova had a question too, so feel free to ask that if you like.
Errol, wait online. Wait a minute. There's a question here locally.
Hi, I admire your motivation and energy. Amazing. Keep beating. Okay, it's not just putting the pieces together, but you have to evaluate the things according to flight conditions. So somebody has to do structural analysis. Just be aware of it, in other words, number one.
Right.
I can take a look and check it if somebody is doing it, but probably I can't be the final one. So be very careful about it, number one.
Right.
Things fail. Be aware of it. Number two, how do I make a small contribution?
So yeah, we are a nonprofit, so you can go to theimpossibleairplane.com, and there's a button in the upper right-hand corner, blue button that says donate, and you can go donate through PayPal.
Theimpossibleairplane.com. Okay.
Yeah. We have both theimpossibleairplane.com and impossibleairplane.com. So if you forget the, totally fine. It'll get you there. And they're tax deductible to Right Footed Foundation. And you can reach out to us if you make the donation. I'll make sure I send you the letter with the tax ID number so you can turn it into your accountant and make sure everything's good come tax time. And you're absolutely right about that. Our first conversations about engineering these modifications was with a gentleman out of the UK, Guy. He wrote the book, or at least the English UK book on this type of stuff. He did modifications for the Royal Air Force when women started to become fighter pilots, and making sure that the aircraft could still fly the full envelope with the expectations of these female fighter pilots as they came on board. And the engineers who are doing the primary flight controls, they're former Northrop Grumman engineers, no longer associated, but they have their own business. So yeah, we do need a second pair of eyes on everything we do before we put it in the final airplane, and making sure we do it as absolutely safely as possible. Because I'm going to be sitting in the other seat next to Jessica for most of this flight time, and I want to know that I'm going to be okay in the airplane too. But we have another little question here.
How did you do your hair?
Oh, well, that is a good one. That is something everyone always wonders about, is my ponytail. There's still one thing I'm still trying to figure out: tie my own ponytail. So in the meantime, Patrick does my ponytail. Would you say he does a pretty good job at that? Yeah, so I'm still working on that one thing, on daily tying up my hair, but I can brush my hair, wash my hair, and do everything except for a ponytail. But I haven't given up on that yet. So if you have any ideas, I want you to let me know, okay? Thanks, Nova. Thank you.
Hey, this is Lynn online. What a story. Gosh, I had heard about you and seen a couple of, I think I actually saw that video of you with the senator a while back. And gosh, we get to meet you. I'm sorry I couldn't make it to the actual in person, but I've always loved the air coupe. It was a revolutionary airplane when it came out. It was an airplane you could actually anybody could fly it. It was designed that way, and I just thought, what a perfect airplane to start with. I'm astounded you're going to be flying an RV-10 now, which is really a hot airplane. I think the next airplane for you is probably a P-51 Mustang. But
Wouldn't that I love that idea.
So you probably saw that picture from 1941 where they used the Army Air Forces, actually it was NACA, used the air coupe as a rocket airplane. They actually tested JADO bottles using an air coupe, which is, when you think about it, pretty incredible. So you were flying really a hot airplane from the beginning because it was a rocket test airplane as well. So I wondered, how does that? And I'm sorry I was a little late. I couldn't make it from the beginning of the program, but I was wondering how the air coupe, how you feel about the handling characteristics of an air coupe. It's just probably one of the most perfect designs ever, in terms of safety and ease of piloting and things like that. But how did you enjoy? What were your impressions of the air coupe?
I'm glad that you're an air coupe fan. I am. It is such a perfect airplane. I don't know why it hasn't been designed. Other planes haven't been designed similar to this. I went flying a week ago. So it was Monday last week, or I'm sorry, 2 weeks ago now. It's all a blur because we do a lot of traveling and speaking. And when I went up, and I just realized how wonderful this plane is. We can, for one, you can have the windows open, so it's like flying a convertible in the sky. And it's just so
Yeah, what
wonderful.
airplane can you fly with the windows open?
Exactly. So you want to say something about that too, Pat?
Yeah, maybe a Stearman, maybe a Cub, and an air coupe, and that's like the end of the list. Yeah, not a Cessna, not a Cirrus, nothing people are out sporting on the flight line today.
It's a special plane, and there's a wonderful community, the Air Coupe community, the Air Coupe Club, and I would recommend to anyone. It's such an easy plane to fly when you compare all the other airplanes out there, and so fun. It's so much fun to fly it.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, I really love that airplane. I love it even more now that I know more about your history, and I'll certainly be going online making a donation. I really appreciate your taking the trouble to share your experiences personally with us.
Thank you, and just so glad to be doing our first ever talk for this community. So glad to know about what you guys do as well, and thank you for inviting us to be here.
Hi, first of all, thank you. Oops, can you hear me? Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. Real close. Okay. You mentioned starting out in a background in psychology, then deciding I don't want to go for my master's, but you mentioned being terrified of flying. What was that leap from being terrified of flying to flying a plane? And did your background in psychology give you some stepping stones or support in making that change?
I love that you made that connection. You must be a psychologist or something in psychology there.
Yeah.
And what I mean, my whole life, I think that I've always been I just chase things that make me feel a little like I'm facing a fear or a little uncomfortable, because there's this great sense of accomplishment on the other side of fear. And I learned that as a child, even just, going out to my first dance recital and not knowing how people are going to respond to my first tap dance routine. But just continuing to do that and being exposed to those opportunities, I was drawn to them. And fear research says the more we face our fear, it relaxes the fear circuitry in our brain. So I first had to be aware that the reason I was afraid of flying was because it was the fear of the unknown. I knew nothing about aviation, aerodynamics, how a plane stays flying, and that a plane doesn't just fall out of the sky when you lose an engine. You glide down and you land wherever you possibly can. So learning all of this about aviation, aerodynamics, and how to handle a plane in emergency, that awareness really transformed my fear into, this was just a fear of the unknown. And like Franklin Roosevelt said, fear stands for false evidence appearing real.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hi, I'm so glad my name is Nate, but I'm glad I delayed my work travel to come here. So I got to fly in early tomorrow morning. But my question was there any challenges while you were learning to fly that were difficult to overcome?
One of the hardest things physically for me to do while flying, when learning through the process of the training process, was landing. Because landing there, it's the busiest you'll ever be. You're controlling airspeed. You're coming down, and I don't think that we're conditioned, no matter who you are, to see the earth come at you from that angle. So overcoming that emotional fear was really hard. and I had to understand how to keep my feet constantly busy and being aware and being 110% on final, because that is the most critical part of flight. And that is also the most celebrated part when you land beautifully and you say, wow, I did it. And you smile and it stays with you for the rest of your day. So I think that landing is the most difficult aspect of flying physically. Would you agree? Because Pat's fine.
Yeah, you have so many things that happen just right in those last couple of seconds. So yeah, that is true. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. That last flare, right? Just hoping you touch down the right moment. So no, I thank you for your answer. It's very inspirational.
I think we had another question online.
Yeah, Gary, okay. Lisa, do you want to say something? Yeah, Lisa, you make a couple comments, praises online. Do you want to speak out? Interesting. Susan, do you want to say something? I saw you type something online.
Yes,
Let's
I
see.
did. I'm a teacher. I'm an educator associate with AIAA, and I arrived late because we had our monthly board meeting tonight. I'm on the East Coast, the National Capital section, and I got involved with coming to the LA, Vegas events during COVID, and I keep coming because there's always so many different things. And I wrote that even though it looks like Patrick doesn't mind, you need to have one of J-Lo's headphone microphone thingies. So, you know, which I'm sure don't you use when you're in the plane as well? You probably have one there. So
I didn't know anything about this JLo, but I do need to look into it. So I'm glad you shared that. I'll be looking that up after this meeting.
yeah, because the students have them now where the students that are learning a second language, they have headphones and then it has a microphone right there that they can talk into and they don't need to mess with anything. But yeah, and I wanted to thank you for being such a dynamic role model, both to women and to people who have physical differences. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I'll just plug really quick, since you're an educator, that 10 years ago, an award-winning documentary about Jessica was released on, did the film festival circuit, won a whole bunch of awards, got on Nat Geo, Fuse TV here in the US. But it's currently on Amazon Prime, free if you have that subscription service. But it's a wonderful, it got a rating in Canada, so not 100% to US, but it's like a PG rating. So it's great for kids. And the University of Florida created a study sheet that can go with it for a variety of education levels. So if you have some kids or some classrooms or anything out there in the world that need a little disability education or experience, that documentary and the study sheet are great resources, and you can reach out to us at the foundation and get that coordinated.
I'll definitely check that out because the kids need to be inspired from an early age. And as a teacher who works with all different kinds of kids, I'm elementary, but I also work with high school and middle school students with science fairs. They need to know right away that whatever they aspire to be will help them get there. And to know that, yeah, there's people out there that look like them and no reason why they can't do it too. So the inspiration is wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We do have a person anonymous type of question in Q&A. Maybe I just show
I'll
it
read
to
it
you.
out. Yeah. Why did you choose a career in aviation? Thank you.
Okay, well, I probably should clarify that I am a sport pilot. So this is a recreational level of flying. And aviation has been opened the doors to opportunities as a speaker. But my career is actually as a motivational speaker. And it has taken me, again, to 29 countries. Patrick and I get to do this and share the powerful method that aviation has allowed to really open people's eyes to what's possible. So aviation has been a wonderful vehicle, but the profession is as a motivational speaker.
And anyone who knows aviation medicals, you probably noticed a little thing. You can't fly an RV-10 with a sport pilot certificate. Jessica is in the process of getting her medical flight review done. She's already been approved to go do that. Nothing official from the FAA, but everyone we meet at the FAA is like, yeah, go do it. You're going to be fine. She's demonstrated many years of flying as a light sport pilot. Next step, private pilot and fly that RV-10.
Oh, go ahead, Ken. I'm sorry, you have another question there.
Yeah, I saw some comments here. Rafik, do you want to speak out? Well, I think before they kind of react, actually, I have a quick question. I mean, since you are trying this thing amazing and you are already a pilot, are you thinking about maybe try become an astronaut at some point?
That's still a possibility, I'm sure. I would love to.
Now you're a pilot, maybe that make it easier.
Yeah, there has not been an amputee in space yet, and there has not been a Filipino in space, and Jessica's half Filipina. So yeah, first visible disability in space. Yeah, that'd be another feather in your cap.
I did hear there is someone who is a leg amputee working on the possibility. Yeah. Working on becoming an astronaut. It will be the first amputee in space. So I wish you all the best. If you're out there watching this, is it at SpaceX or is the?
I forget which company.
Access. There's okay.
Yeah, Astro Access working on opening those doors. I'm not aware of anyone from the program who's currently slated to go to space, but they have done the vomit comet more than enough. And I don't see any reason people with disabilities should be kept from going to space other than stigma and assumptions. And one of Jessica's good friends is Wally Funk, who was on the first Blue Origin flight into space, and she had gone through all of the Apollo astronaut testing that all of the Apollo astronauts had gone through. She went through it roughly the same time. Chewie, come here. You don't need to go visit. Come here. Hey, come here. I know you hear me over there. She went through all of the testing and scored better. She almost fell asleep in the sensory deprivation tank, which was driving half the astronauts nuts. Yet she wasn't allowed to go to space at the time because of assumptions. And I think in my personal opinion, the same thing is happening to people with disabilities right now. So.
Very good. Online. Any more question online? I saw some.
Yes. Well, as you were mentioning that, Patrick, I remembered the whole argument about John Glenn going back up when he was in as good a shape as he was 30 years prior, and they were saying he was too old. And we proved that wrong, didn't we? So.
Yeah. We've got Senator Kelly in the Senate right now. I'm not sure if I'm sure we have some other astronaut somewhere in Congress. I mean, there's levers of power that could be leveraged one way or another. But yeah, that's something that needs to be done, a barrier that needs to be broken.
Yeah, I think there's another, astronaut, Don Pettit. He just recently returned. Yeah. Yeah. And then he want to go back again. Actually, Lisa used to work in NASA. So the lady who just spoke out. Yeah, Lisa, do you want to say something about it? You didn't say who you are, so. Well, anyway, we actually have another person online from NASA, but anyway, Dr. Prasad, do you want to say something? You're online. Do you want to say hello or say what do you think? Oh, maybe just watching. All right. So So okay, it looks like there's no more question online. So any question
Hello,
here in
can you hear me?
Yes.
Dr. Prasad?
Yeah. I'm sorry,
Go
it was muted actually. I was very fascinated by the entire discourse that happened so far. And of course, there are questions actually about the piloting the plane with the various features, especially in the turbulence. When there is a turbulence, how do you control them and all this kind of stuff. But even then, I think I have those questions. But the very nature of piloting a plane itself with such disability is really marvelous and extraordinary feat that human beings have achieved it. And this is really fascinating. The only one question that I might have is, if you encounter turbulence, how do you make up your mind to control that in such situations?
Well, the most turbulent flight I will never forget was the flight for my check ride to get my certificate. And you can't really reschedule that. So I choose normally, if I had the option, I would normally fly during smooth air, just because there's a lot going on and I'm doing enough with my feet to add one more thing to it. And given the fact that my feet are up, so I have nothing else grounding me in that seat. So I have to have a 4-point harness, because that way I can get some leverage with my chest. But when I don't have my feet grounding me, there's a lot. It's a lot harder to shift if there is some kind of turbulence or something, and if it knocks me off my balance in some way, there's a risk. But during that particular flight, my check ride, when I had no choice and I pushed through with it, it was tough.
Yeah. But that's
And
also,
also one more question, for people who have really no idea how this entire the environment has been modified for you, in case if it is, if there is a short clip or a video, if you post it, it would be really good, and I mean really interesting, because we would like to get an idea how skillful that one should be to get this, or how easy it might be with your skills to pilot a plane. Short clips would be very interesting.
yeah, we'll definitely be pushing out a whole bunch of information. The idea is not to make one airplane for one pilot that will only serve once. Over this process, we've found a bunch of pilots with disabilities, none of them quite like Jessica, online with a bunch of different modifications and tools and changes and different things they've done. And nowhere on the internet are they all listed or explained or shown how they work. So one of the other things we want to eventually, with the proper funding and somebody who knows how to describe it, who is an engineer, which is not me, is have a resource online for the next pilot who wants to modify an airplane, with explanations of how Joe modified his helicopter, or how John is flying as a paraplegic, not glider, aerobatic pilot in Europe. Another gentleman who lost one arm and created a whole aviation specific mechanical arm. How did he make it? What other modifications did he make in his airplane? And explain it all in a way that the next person can go in, okay, I like that idea, and those two together solve my problem, and they can move forward with it. So, and like you were saying, I just wanted to add the one thing about the turbulence. That's kind of why we're putting Jessica's feet on the floor and all of her controls down low, so that as she gets bounced around, she can still stay in a roughly stable position. And we even did a little bit of testing on the panel. We have a special curve for the center display that kind of pulls it out, so Jessica has something to brace her foot against as she adjusts the knobs on her screen in front of her in the plane. So yeah, we're working on it. And if you have any suggestions or input on how we can further test it or make some further modifications, be sure to let us know.
Thank you so much, actually. Yes.
Where did you put your airplane? In the airport in your hometown?
So we have the air coop at Marana Regional Airport in Tucson. and the kit is being assembled by a team of volunteers in Toms River, New Jersey. So I was talking with a few people before. We have the option to either do the flight testing in New Jersey, fly to Arizona, finish the modifications for Jessica, or get it 99.9% finished, keep the wings off of it, throw it on a trailer and trailer it all the way to Arizona, pop the wings on, finish the modifications, and then fly it off in Arizona, which that will happen in January. Arizona is beautiful in January. New Jersey, maybe not so much. Sorry, EAA 898, if you heard that part.
We are grateful to EAA Chapter 898. And I'm just going to put a shout out there because we are in LA. One of the big goals is to one day fly over the opening ceremonies of the Olympic Games. So if we have any connections with LA 28, please make that connection for us, because we need to be able to show the world that disability doesn't mean inability. And what better at a time when everyone's watching, and do a nice, beautiful flyover with not just myself, but other 2 pilots with disabilities. One's a veteran, one is another person who has a disability, who've already agreed to do this in formation so that we can show the world what is possible. And wouldn't that be wonderful as part of the opening ceremonies? I think that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's amazing because, yeah, actually LA 28 has many things gear up, the flying car, air taxi, and they also have the new metro station. Everything is going on. Then you have also not only the LA 28, you have the World Cup and also the Super Bowl. So next year, 2027, 28, 3 consecutive years. And we actually have engineer who retired from Northrop Grumman. He built his own aircraft as well. And he put his airplane in the Compton Airport. And since you are connected here, you mentioned you were Torrance, right? Torrance, Gary used to, we have a monthly meeting in next to the Torrance Airport, and you get married in South Pasadena, right? It looks like you have very good connection in Southern California. You should, come back here more often, maybe fly your plane,
I grew up in Fallbrook,
Oh,
just south of
okay.
Temecula,
Yeah,
in San Diego County. So yeah, I have lots of family out here. And
yeah, there's a great community here, building airplane, also student, the other student branches, and this is a great home for you. So think about it. Yeah, also the amazing AIAA, AIAA and the Los Angeles activity. Yeah, thank you so much. Oh, Gary has
one more question.
Yeah, I can probably come up with a couple of things, but with regards to the EAA, are you in contact with any of the EAA chapters in Los Angeles?
Not in Los Angeles. We've got some connections with headquarters and a number of chapters across the country. But one of those things we want to add to our tour is connect up with all of the Young Eagle events across the country and come out and be part of it.
Absolutely. Particularly, I go out to where the EAA chapter 1 is pretty much every weekend. That's through an AIAA project that created 2 replicas of the original airplane, the Wright Flyer.
Oh, wow.
One of them is at Marchfield. It was in a wind tunnel test at NASA Ames. The other was on its verge of flight test. We had a problem with dropping tacks out of the wings at medium speed taxis, so it has now become a museum piece. But EA Chapter 1 has just a whole cluster of home-built aircraft and other interesting people out there.
Yeah.
And of course, the chapter, I think, 99.
The 99s in WAI. And
I'm talking about Compton.
Compton?
And also in Torrance. So earlier, Lynn Jensen was on the line, and he is actually a director of the Western Museum of Flight as well, which I'm a member of. And so that's in Torrance. And they have a weekly, they have a monthly talk presentation on Saturday morning. I think it's typically the second Saturday. I'm not quite sure about which one, but they're only open on Wednesday through Sunday. So I don't know if you're going to be around here that long, but
Oh, we fly back in the morning. We'll probably see you at the airport. Yeah.
okay. Anyway, one other issue. At the beginning of my career, I actually worked on the Apollo command module, including doing some things on the
wow
on the control devices and the crew couch. And during that time, I got a copy of NASA's SP 8006, I think it is. Anyway, it's the bioastronautics data book. And in that, it describes, for instance, what forces a pilot can do. So the Wright Flyer project assumed there would be a left-handed pilot, possibly a female, and that we had to be able to make a yaw, a roll command turning outward. And so that's a 14-pound force. We had to limit the control force to a maximum of 14 pounds for roll.
Yeah, one of the challenges with modifying the rudder to be a push-pull instead of just a push is full rudder deflection in an RV-10 is 150 pounds, which don't tell the engineers at Vans, but that's a lot for anybody. So being able to gear that down, like it's
that is straight push.
Right. That is like,
but still, if you weigh less than 150 pounds, that's an awful lot.
Yeah. But I think their metrics was one pound of force to get aileron to full aileron deflection, gears up to 4 pounds of force or ratio 1:4 to, I want to say 15. So roll, if roll was 1 pound, pitch was 4, and rudder was 15, roughly for full deflection. So rudder's a little heavy, but you don't need a lot of it in an RV-10 in most flight envelopes.
Okay. Well, this is very inspirational, and it's especially so with all the modifications that you're doing and the amazing team that you developed to do that. So
we could always use a few extra eyeballs and calculators on various things and making sure we're doing it the right way. So if you want to be a part of it, we having a little Apollo legacy into this airplane would be great too.
Okay. Well, let me pass this back over to Ken.
Another way I just think of, because Gary just mentioned the Wright brothers Flyer. Actually, we locally, like Meredith, he's also aviation pilot. Locally, we have also quite some AIAA member. They are engineer, also pilot. For example, Dr. Susan In is with Ampere. She just actually got the AIAA Wright brothers lectureship in aeronautics, and so she's local. She's also an instructor. Also, Dr. Dan Raymer, he has a textbook. He's also an instructor pilot. So locally, we actually have quite a few pilots. And actually, formerly there was a speaker from Aerospace Corporation. He actually even owns a Cessna. So we actually locally have a quite pilot. There's some kind of interest, quite a lot of interest there. So another thing is maybe we can look into maybe the AIAA have some kind of awards. You can think about it, and if somebody can nominate you, something like that, you can think about it. That's kind of raising some kind of visibility within AIAA.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the awards really go to the engineers who are helping us figure all this out. We have some great ideas, but they figured it out. So, yeah, if we can get, maybe a little team of people who nominate all these people for the appropriate awards, that would be awesome way to help as well and unveil that next year at AirVenture.
Very good. So AIAA is your home, and we welcome you very much, especially the LA section. Okay, so without Any further question? I don't see any question online either. So let's thank Patrick and Jessica once more. It's amazing presentation. We thank you so much.
Ken, there is a request in the chat. Can you
Oh.
post the link again since some of us arrived late?
Yeah, I saw you have a
link.
Yep.
And my question is, how do we hear about your developments?
Yeah. Oh, how do you hear about the developments? You follow online Jessica's socials. You can also, that's one thing we're adding a revamp to. We have a professional graphic artist donating time to revamp the website. It's not up there right now, but keep an eye on the website. There will be a link to sign up for the newsletter back on there here soon. But in the meantime, you can send us an email, rightfootedfoundation@gmail.com, and I can go in and manually add you to that in the short term. I think there's also a link way down at the bottom of the page for theimpossibleairplane.com. I'm not sure if I can say theimpossibleairplane.com many more times in one conversation to make sure everybody's got it, but I did my best.
Yeah, we also posted on the website. We post a video and a picture, so we can post it there.
That would be great on that. Next to the picture and video, it'd be great.
And we also have the LA section has newsletter, monthly newsletter. So you have some press or article, we can post it as well.
Awesome.
As an educational and professional article.
Thank you so much, Ken, for putting this together, and to your wonderful team and the association. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Our great pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks online. Thank you.